people, welcome back to another episode of Pleasure Principles, where we dive deep into the art, science, mystery of pleasure, connection, and everything in between. I'm your host Avik, and today, oh man, we are in for a treat because. So I want you to think like this, dear listeners. Picture this like a man who's been through the highs of substance fueled escapes and the lows of heart shares that wrenching betrayals, right? So, yeah. So, someone who's taken those experiences, churned them into the wisdom, and now shares that raw, unfiltered journey with thousands of people. Yep. From navigating the digital dating world to investigating cults. Yes, it's
Yes,
cults. Yeah.
yes,
And even the scam baiting. So
yes.
my guest today has walked through the fire and come out radiating authenticity. Yes, dear listeners. So please welcome to the mic Andrew Peters. So welcome to the show, Andrew.
Avik, thank you so much for having me, and what a fantastic introduction because you pretty much nailed it. You got everything, everything that I'm involved in today. You got it right.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Andrew. And I really, really, I truly believe this should go out with people, a lot of people, not only thousands. It shouldn't be limited to any numbers. It should go to
No,
a lot of people. Yeah.
the topics that I cover go from everything from dating all the way, like you said, to cults, all the way to scams, and that's like one of the top three problems in our society today is everything,
Yeah.
not top three, I should say, but some of the, the most prevalent topics. Yeah.
Exactly. So, so Andrew, like your story, it reads like definitely epic. Substances, heartbreak, cult investigations, scam baiting. It's got everything. But I want to start uh, something with the pleasure, like in your journey from addiction and the codependency to reclaiming your power. How did your relationship with that pleasure change?
Well, let's start with the fact that I'm 65 years old, which just blows my mind because for those who are younger, when you're 30 and 40, you think 65 is really old. It's not. When you get to 65, your mind still thinks you're 30, but of course the body doesn't agree. So all my life, Avik, I was brought up in a very wealthy, humble home. My parents were married to a death did them part. They both were married, and then each of them passed within a couple of years of each other. And I was brought up a very strict conservative Catholic, and yet I was rebellious. I
Okay.
rebelled against that upbringing, and but it my parents were Catholics and conservatives and traditional, and they brought me up to treat a woman with respect and kindness. And my dad did that. He showed that in the marriage to my mother. I watched him do that. So I was brought up to treat a woman correctly. So my whole life, I got married at 25, and the woman I married was somebody I worked with, and we had several kids together. But we were both alcoholics, and
Um,
there's a whole another story there. But I am an alcoholic in recovery, and I'm celebrating 10 years in 2 months. July 4th is my 10-year anniversary. But anyway, back in the marriage days, the marriage just didn't work. So in 1992, I got divorced, and part of my story is that I'm a codependent. I can't be single. I have to have a woman on my arms. So I jumped into literally another relationship, and that became like a common law marriage. We didn't get married, but we lived together for 10 years, and we had I had my third child. So I have three boys.
okay.
And then that relationship ended, but my alcoholism was just rocketing, and I went out and did what I felt that I wanted to do. And because when you're in the grafts or the holds of the alcoholism disease, everything that you're taught, everything that you've learned, everything that your parents taught you goes out the window. And it wasn't
Right.
until 2015 when I finally decided to get sober, which was 10 years ago, that
Mm.
I learned that that's not the way I want to live. And,
Yeah.
but however, I have had already 30 something years of going out there in the world chasing women. I was literally a womanizer and chaser,
Mhm.
not to the degree where it was inappropriate, but I always found women. I had never had a problem finding women, whether it was relationships or one night
Mhm.
stands or alcoholic bit, like meet somebody at a bar, go home and sleep together.
Okay.
What happened, it was bad. I was codependent and and the whole time I was a people pleaser. I always put the woman first, always, even in the bedroom, intimately. I would,
Mhm.
even though I was in the grips of alcoholism and drug addiction, I would always want the woman to have pleasure first. It was
Mm.
just something that I was taught. And of
Mm.
course, my parents didn't directly teach me that, but it was just part of the. My father didn't sit down and say, "Hey,
Mm.
please the woman first." 2015, I get sober and I get into a relationship within a year or two, and that went nowhere. It was just a woman looking for. I seem to find women who are in trouble. I always find women who are in trouble. So
Mhm.
trouble one way or another. So this woman, her husband was an alcoholic for 30 years. She divorced him,
Mhm.
and then she found me, an alcoholic in recovery, and I thought she felt that she would be safe because a
Mhm.
woman with 30 years of alcoholic marriage will
Mm.
feel safe in a new relationship. But it didn't work for me or for her. So that was a short lived, maybe less than a year.
Mm.
And here's part of my story. I'm a codependent, which means that when I'm not with the woman, I need to
Mm.
find another one quickly. So I quickly
Yeah.
found the second one, and the second woman came along, and she was much different. She was divorced for many years. She had a home, she had a child, she had a business. She was doing
Mm.
very independently wealthy and did well. And she really wasn't my type of woman, but I
Mm.
we clicked and we had a lot of chemistry and we dated for about
Mm.
18 months. But like many stories I'm sure you've heard, COVID broke us apart. COVID came along,
Mm.
and because she was in the medical field, she needed to put distance between me and herself.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't like that. I said, we've been together for almost 2 years. Why would you? She said to me, I can't see you until
Mm.
COVID's over. And so
Yeah.
that I ended that relationship because I wasn't happy with her boundaries. She established boundaries and I wasn't happy with them. And in
Mm.
typical fashion of codependency, I jumped into a third relationship. Now, mind you, this is all during my sobriety. So, the third relationship, I found another woman with a lot of baggage, a lot. Like she had many issues. But Avik, she was
Yeah.
a beauty queen from South America. She
Mm.
was a Miss Universe contestant back in the 1999 or something.
Mm.
And she was a absolutely beautiful Latina. And
Mhm.
I have a thing for Latinas. And I'm your typical American
Mm.
gringo. I'm New York born and bred. And
Mm.
anyway, so we clicked. But
Mm.
she came from a marriage of 20 years, and her husband, she married the man that she came up from South America with,
Mm.
and he cheated on her. So she had issues because she was very beautiful, but she couldn't understand why a husband would cheat on somebody so beautiful. Her ego was bruised. So she put herself on a dating app literally a month after the divorce papers were signed. And I'm sure you may have discussed this in the past, and if you haven't,
Mhm.
you can't get into another relationship after 20 years. You need time to grieve, to process, to to
Mm.
to be, to change, to whatever. You need grief time. But when I saw her on eHarmony, and that was the dating site,
Mm.
we clicked, we dated, and instantly fell in love. And I think she looked at me like her salvation because she was looking for another man to validate her beauty. She was beautiful, but why would a husband of 20 years who had the most beautiful Latina in the world go cheat on her. And that blew her ego. That her ego was just shattered. So I think she needed to go out and find another man to validate her beauty, and that was me. And I did that. I validated her beauty, but I went overboard. I showered her with gifts and flowers and massages and trips and dinners and gifts and I I I went overboard. I'm a people pleaser. And like I said in the beginning, I'm also one to make sure that the woman is treated properly. Well, I kind of went overboard. I got a little overzealous, and I think and I've heard this over the years. Uh, and as you know, I run the digital dating podcast for about 2 years and change. I've learned a lot about dating and women and personalities. You can't do that to a woman. If you overstimulate her,
Yeah.
she's gonna run, and she did. But she neglected to tell me that she was gonna go run, meaning she was still in the relationship. We were committed, but she was seeing men on the side. I think she got bored of she got bored of my constant. Every weekend, Avik, she would come over. She lived about an hour away, so we would really only see each other on weekends, but she would spend the weekend with me. And she would have flowers, and I'd make sure she had her favorite Latina dish ready. I would make sure I went grocery shopping. And I think after about a year, she started to get bored of that. And so she started going back on the dating apps, unbeknownst to me. Now, I did not know this. And there were many, many, many red flags showing that she was having sex with other men and dating other men. And even to the point where I found out that she was doing an OnlyFans account. She had an OnlyFans account. Yeah. But I didn't know any of this. I stumbled upon it, and I found out about it, and I confronted her multiple times, and she denied it and denied it. And then I would believe her. I would take her back because, Avik, I was codependent, and I didn't want to lose her. She was so beautiful. I would never find somebody as beautiful as her again. So I accepted all of her shenanigans, all of her misdeeds. And every time, quickly, I'll tell you a story. I took her to Florida about a year or two into relationship. We went to Florida on vacation. We went down to the Keys in Florida, and 2 days after we were there, she left me there. I went to an AA meeting one morning, and I came back to the Airbnb, and she had packed her bags and gone back to New York. And I had no idea why. And I didn't find out why until 7 days later. But the bottom line is she left me in Florida. And, I had paid for a 7-day vacation. We rented a car, an Airbnb, four airplane tickets. It wasn't a cheap thing. And when I came back, I had ended the relationship. At that point, I was done. Well, she came knocking on my door about 5 days later, literally came to my home and knocked on my door and begged me to take her back and said, "I'm so sorry. I'll pay you back for the ticket, yada, yada, yada." And I said to her, "I found out that you're an OnlyFans account." I think when she was in Florida, she was doing some adult entertainment work.
Yeah.
He convinced me to take her back. And of course, I did. And the same thing repeated itself. So it was good for a month or two. And then I started seeing the signs again. About another year goes by, and I'm getting more and more frustrated because I'm seeing physical signs of sexual activity. I would like to try to keep it clean for you, but her private parts were very swollen. There were many times she would come over and she would say to me, "We can't have intercourse," and I'd say, "Why?" And she would just give me a gaslighting answer. She would dance around the question. So but only come to the conclusion that she was sleeping with somebody else and she was sore. But I kept accepting these answers and accepting these excuses. And so to jump ahead a little bit, because I know we only have 30 minutes. About 3 years after the whole thing, I finally walked away. I had enough. And it was the hardest thing I had to do. other than getting sober and other than maybe a couple of other times in my life, the hardest thing was to walk away from this beautiful woman. And that was October of 2023, maybe, I'm thinking. So we're in 24, 25. No, it must have been 2022. So we're coming up on 2.5 years that I left her. During that time, I decided that I needed to fix me because all of the relationships that I was in, I was the common denominator. They didn't work out. And I couldn't point the finger at these other people.
Exactly.
So I decided to start a podcast. And I started a podcast. Initially, it was called the Anonymous Andrew Podcast. I wanted some anonymity because I didn't want to out her, but I was going to tell my story of that relationship. So I went with Anonymous Andrew, and I did well. The first year, I did very well. The numbers crossed 10,000 downloads. And then I changed the name because the first year was all about me grieving and getting over a heartbreak. The second year was me learning how to become comfortable in my own skin. I needed to learn not to be the codependent. Not that I had this thing that I needed a woman on my arm. So the second season was all about learning how to be comfortable in your own skin, not having to have a relationship. And I did that. And along the way, I met a woman. Well, it's kind of a complicated story, but I'll keep it very brief. There was a woman approached me from England who was a music producer, and she was in a relationship called the Twin Flames.
Okay.
In other words, her fiance and her considered themselves a twin flame, which is a Greek mythology concept. There's only a certain number of twin flames according to the Greeks. However, there is a cult, an online cult called the Twin Flames Universe, and they're online, and Amazon and Netflix did a documentary on them that are taking advantage of this concept, and they're charging young people a lot of money to join their organization. They promise that they'll find them a twin flame. Anyway, I did an investigation on them because of this woman who came from England and wanted to do a story, and I got interested in cults. So but cults and dating don't mix, right? They have nothing to do with each other. So I spun off a new podcast about cults, and that's called Cultimatum, the culture of cults and human trafficking. And that's doing very well. That one has actually surpassed my dating podcast. So, but that's fine. I'm the executive producer and I have a co-host. Anyway, that's how I got into cults. We're coming up on a year of our celebration. We're doing a very special anniversary episode tomorrow. And in between some of my dating episodes, I had issues with things in life, like traffic or customer service problems. And I came up with a project called the Weekend Rant, where I would come on and I would record about 40 minutes of a problem that I had that week. So maybe I was at the let's say the grocery store, and I don't know. It was or no, another example. I was coming home from work and there was a traffic jam because of construction. And it bothered me that the New York City Department of Transportation is congesting the area around JFK Airport. Anyway, the point is like I come on the microphone and I vent my frustrations about certain things that we all go through in life: traffic, customer service. I can make you a laundry list, and that episode did very, very well. I got a big response on those episodes, so I took that and made it a podcast. So I have 3 podcasts now. So digital dating, Cultimatum, and then in a podcast called The Weekend Rant. And they're all nothing to do with dating. They all have their own topic. But anyway, let's go back to digital dating. So in the digital dating podcast, I am now in my 4th season, and we are now covering what is going on in the modern dating culture. Oh, I don't know your relationship status, but in the world of dating, it has changed dramatically from 15, 20 years ago. And we did have dating apps 15 years ago. They were born pretty much around 2012. Tinder was one of the first ones around 2012. And even back in 2008, we had eHarmony and Match.com were desktop. They weren't apps. They were desktop websites.
Yeah.
And back then, it was very easy to get a date. It was people were honest, people were pleasant with each other. There was no such thing as ghosting. There was no such thing as deal breakers. And today, as you probably know, there's romance scams. If you voted for Trump or if you didn't vote for Trump, they don't want to talk to you. So if you don't have a valid passport, they don't want to talk to you. The women's profiles today have a specific list of deal breakers. Anyway, so I'm diving into the world of modern dating today as I'm trying to get back out there and start dating again. And in those 2.5 years that I stayed single, I did a lot of work on myself. Besides building this podcast business, I have learned that it's okay to be alone. It's okay to be in my own skin. That nothing's going to happen to me. Because I was deathly afraid of losing any girlfriend in the past couple of years. So I'm going to stop there and let you ask any questions because I know I just.
No, that's very awesome. That's really awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's actually clears everything. So that's much important. And also, like you have shared that podcasting itself became the therapeutic for you, a space to process, rant, reflect. So do you feel that creative expression can be a kind of form of pleasure in its own right?
That podcasting itself?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I used it as therapy. When I left that relationship with the Latina, I thought I was the only guy in the world that got gaslit, that got lied to, that got cheated on, that got left in Florida, and I was also very ashamed that I allowed this to happen to me. Because I'm an intelligent guy. In my day job, I'm an IT director. I build networks, and I've been with the same company for 25 years. So I'm not going to tell you that I'm a genius, but I'm a smart, intelligent guy, and I had a very good education, and I was brought up well. But how did this woman scam me? And I don't mean scam in the sense of financial, but she somehow manipulated the relationship the way she wanted it to go, and I allowed it. And even though I tried to establish boundaries, she crossed every boundary, and I didn't stop her. So the podcast, having guests come on, coaches and therapists and experts and authors who wrote best-selling books come on, it was therapeutic for me to listen and learn. And people were teaching me that, Andrew, it's okay to be single for a year. Take some time off and discover yourself. Avik, at that time, I was like 62 years old. And don't forget now, I'm sober. So I am living without alcohol. I don't know what it's like to be alone in my own skin. Okay, I know you have a question.
No. So I was just listening to that. That is very, very important. So, I mean, you can continue. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, to answer your original question, the podcast became a therapeutic journey. It was like my way to purge everything that I had gone through. And then I find out with other guests and listening and having guests and listening to other podcasts that what this woman did to me was very common. It's so I think the bottom line is when you leave a relationship, no matter what, whether it's a 20-year marriage or 1-year relationship, you need to take some time off, reflect, properly grieve, and that could look different for everybody. So this woman, for a 22-year marriage, technically she should have grieved for another 2 years. She should have stayed single, but she didn't. And I knew that, and yet I dated her anyway. So being an intelligent person, I should have said to myself, do not go into this relationship because she's not ready. But I did. So I ignored the red flags, all of them. There were a lot of red flags in the very beginning. She would sit on my couch and trauma bond, tell me about her. She had some childhood sexual abuse, and there were many things that happened to her. And of course, I would sit there and I would hold her as she cried, and I made her feel better. And this is what gave her like comfort, and it nurtured the beginning of our relationship. She felt that she could trust and lean on me, but ultimately, at the rest of the story you heard, she decided to go out, but the podcast itself healed me because I got to understand what happened to me, how to prevent it from happening again. And one of the things that I want to talk about quickly, because the name of your podcast is Pleasure Principles. It's all about intimacy.
True.
I think even though today's world is a younger generation that's going out there, there's a lot of hookups. People are hooking up on Tinder. They're one night stands. I had a conversation with a guest the other day about whining and dining. So if I take a woman out to dinner for a lavish dinner, that I should expect sex at the end of that dinner, and that's the old fashioned male chauvinistic approach to dating, and that's not me. I take a woman out to dinner, whether it's a nice casual dinner or a very expensive dinner. I do not expect sex afterwards. And yet I'm seeing in today's world on social media that the younger generation today, they don't even have dinner. They hook up on Tinder and they go meet up at a motel, or they go to the person's house or apartment. I live outside of Manhattan, and I know what's going on. People are just hooking up in the middle of the day, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They see somebody. Hey, you want to? Can I curse? All right. Do you want to go have sex? And they meet up and they have sex, and then they'll go their own way. And that's I'm not judging. If that's your thing, great. But my world is you court a woman. You find someone you're attracted to, and you go on dates, and you get to know them, and you build a chemistry, and you get to know them. And you also, unfortunately, in today's world, you have to do your due diligence. And to the ladies listening out there, do not give your phone number to any man you meet on a dating app. You must get yourself a second phone number. Google Voice will give you one for free. If you don't want to go to Google, there's a whole bunch of apps on Apple and Android that will give you a second VoIP phone number, because I can Google anybody's phone number, and today it will tell me where they lived, what job they have, how much they left is left on their mortgage, and it's shocking. So there's creepy guys out there that if you give your phone number to, they can find out a lot about you. And if we had more time, I could tell you some horror stories that I've heard.
Sure, please.
Oh, well, there was a horror story I heard the other day that a guy, they hadn't even met, but they exchanged phone numbers, and the guy sent her flowers, and she got angry because she didn't know how he found her address, but he found her address by Googling her phone number. And because she rejected him, she rejected the flowers. She texted him and said, that's inappropriate. Why are you sending flowers to my home address, which I did not give you? And so he started stalking her, and he ambushed her outside of her home one night, and she was assaulted. So that's just one story. Just don't give your phone numbers out, ladies. Please get a second phone number and do a video call first. If you're going to go meet the person, make sure that they're the person that is the picture in the dating app. Get on FaceTime. If you're on Bumble or Hinge or Match, they all have video capability within the app, so you don't have to exchange your phone number. Do your due diligence. It's called swiping safely. You want to? Matter of fact, Avik, you had on Kelly a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did. I had her on my show. It's all she talked about swiping safely. It's all about
Yeah.
being safe on today's dating apps, and a
Exactly.
lot of the young generation aren't doing that. So, anyway, my dating podcast is all about navigating the dating world, learning from the mistakes that I made, and if you're not ready to date yet, don't date. Stay single.
Yeah.
Be by
Very true.
yourself. Enjoy, because I got to tell you, two and a half years of being single, I kind of like it. Now, am I lonely at times? Did I sit home last night? Last night was Saturday. It's Saturday. It's right in here in New York. It's May. The flowers are blooming. The trees are blooming. The weather is nice. I live by the beach. I could have been on a date last night. I could have been with a woman, but
Yeah.
I chose to stay home and watch. Because of my cult podcast, I'm watching some cult documentaries. So I stayed home last night on HBO and I watched 2 or 3 cult documentaries. But I would have rather have been out on a date, but it just wasn't in the cards for me this week. So I accept that. But you know what? The summer's here, and I know that I'll have plenty of opportunities down the road. So if you're single because you're of a breakup or a divorce, stay single. Chill for a while, grieve,
Exactly.
and learn about yourself, because I learned so much about myself in the past 2 years, and it took 60 years for me to do that. I feel like I wasted I'm 65. So for 60 years, I've been running around chasing women and doing this and doing that and got it all wrong. The only thing that I'll say positive is that I have 3 wonderful grown-up men, boys, children, and I have 2 grandchildren, and they are the starlights of my eyes, of my world. But other than that, I regret everything that I have done in the past 50 years. It's just been one mistake after the other. Now I'm comfortable. I could tell you another quick story. I was dating somebody just last week. We went on a date,
Okay.
and then the next day she went on a cruise. And the date, we went to dinner the night before, and we had a great time. And we made plans to go out after she got back from the cruise, which was only 7 days later. She comes back 7 days later. We texted during the date, during her cruise. We said hello, and I didn't over text her. I just 1 or 2 texts. Hey, I hope you're having a great time. She came back. She got sick. She came back with vertigo, because people can get sick from being on a cruise, and she was infected with a sinus infection. She got some sort of illness from the ship. And when she got back, I contacted her and I said, "Hey, when can we go on our second date?" And she got, I don't want to say angry. She got snippy and said something like, I'm sick. And this is another thing I've learned. You have to listen to what the woman says. Don't ignore. So she was trying to tell me, right now, I'm not doing well. I'm sick. I have a sinus infection, and 3 days after my cruise, I can't even get out of bed. And all I was thinking about was our next date. And I had to pull back and say, wait a minute. This woman is telling me she's not in a good place. Let her go. Let her be. And that's what I did. And that was about 5 days ago, and I haven't heard from her, and that's okay. But 5 or 10 years ago, I would have been pulling my hair out going, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. She was having a bad day or a bad week for reasons because she was sick. So I've learned so much, Avik, so much. Just take some time off and be with yourself and learn
Exactly.
and listen to podcasts like yours and mine and anything for mental. I also I live with bipolar disorder, so I know you have another podcast, Happy Mind Mental Health something.
Yeah.
Yeah, great podcast, really wonderful podcast, and I live with bipolar disorder, so I don't know. One day, if you'd like, I come on there and talk about that as
Yeah,
well.
why not? Definitely, definitely. Because I also been. I mean, if you have seen my website, so I tried to put not all the things, because not everything I can also showcase or write on
Right.
the website. But I mean, I have tried to put down what I also been through in my life, and why I started Healthy Mind by Awake. So that is also a kind of journey. I mean, yes. So my main aim is to reach out to a lot of people, tell them, see, I have done this mistake. You do not do that. So that is something which I also I mean, trust.
And I'll add one more thing.
Mm,
During the past 2 years, while I was staying single and grieving and learning about myself, I also decided to get healthy
mm,
because I was not healthy. I was not eating
yeah.
correctly. I wasn't exercising. Now, I've
Mm,
been a tennis player all my life, and I've been
wow.
I'm a bicyclist, but I've also had my hips replaced because of,
Oh.
yeah, well, when you get older, that's what happens. And I was
Mm,
playing a lot of tennis. But important, not only is to take care of the mind, is to take care of the body. And so now I make sure I get 8 hours sleep every night. I make sure that I don't eat too much sugar and too much salt, and I hydrate. I don't drink anything
mm,
but water or any kind of non-caffeinated. I don't know if you. I'm holding up a
mm,
cup here of
yeah.
non-caffeinated tea. This is Mulan tea. It's
Okay.
supposed to be good for the lungs. Take care of your body. It's the only one you're ever gonna get, unless you
Mm,
believe in reincarnation, of course. But
mhm,
in this world, in this universe, the only your body is a temple. Take care of it,
yeah.
and it will take care of you.
Exactly. That's amazing. That's a very, very true thing. Yep. Lovely, lovely, Andrew. I mean, I just want to take a moment to honor the raw honesty and courage that you bring, and not just to this conversation, but to every space you enter. So,
Thank you.
like so from reclaiming your life after addiction and heartbreak to diving into the shadows of cults and digital scams, you embody what it means to transform pain into the purpose and survival into service. So, for all the listeners, if today's episode has stirred something in you, whether it's reflecting on your own pleasure principles or setting better boundaries, or maybe simply showing yourself a little more grace, lean into that. Maybe it's time to ask
Yeah.
yourself, where am I seeking the pleasure? And am I ready to rewrite that story? So that's much important. So, dear listeners, don't forget to check out Andrew's podcast, Digital Dating with Anonymous Andrew. And there's a treasure trove to a real talk, wisdom, and few rants that might just hit home. I'll put all the links into the show notes for your easy reference, dear listeners. Yes, Andrew, you're saying something.
Yeah, no, no, no. I'm saying it's yeah. I
Mm,
there's 3 podcasts, and you mentioned the Weekend Rant, and I encourage my listeners, anybody, if you have
mm,
a frustration that you have gone through, I'd love to hear
mm.
about it. So send me your frustrations, and maybe I'll have you on the show. I'm looking.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Lovely. Great. Great. So, dear listeners, until next time, remember that pleasure is your birthright. Claim it, explore it, celebrate it. So, this is your host, Avik, signing off from Pleasure Principles. Stay curious, stay connected, and stay pleasured. So, thank you so much.